Next, we are discussing, it's a fireside chat between Peyush Bansal, the co-founder and chief executive and people officer at Lenskart, who'd be talking to Priyanka Gill, co-chair India Internet Day 2023, charter member TIE Delhi-NCR. And as they come on the stage, we'd like to thank our silver partners Lufthansa for their support and also for helping us put this together. Peyush and Priyanka, let's welcome with a huge round of applause.
Thanks. Thanks, Deep. Rajan and Sridhar, they're very hard acts to follow, but I have someone wonderful to work with, so I'm quite confident that we can get there. Hi guys, I'm Priyanka Gill. I'm the co-chair of the conference today. I'm also the co-founder of the Good Glamm group. I have with me Peyush Bansal. Peyush, of course, needs literally no introduction. If there's anyone in the room who doesn't know him, then you probably should not be at a startup conference.
Yes, there's no rule like this.
No rule like that. But I've known Peyush from before his Shark Tank days. We used to be sitting at conferences just like this, but at the very back and trying. We had a common investor. And it's really fascinating to see Peyush's journey over all these years. And I actually feel really proud to have known you for all these years.
Same here.
So Peyush, of course, the Lenskart story is really well known. But you spent a year in the US at Microsoft.
Yes.
So what did Microsoft do wrong to lose a talent like you?
Nothing. They did everything right. I don't think they think that pushing entrepreneurs, like creating entrepreneurs like them is so bad for them. I think they just made me meet Bill Gates at his lakeside house for half an hour.
Oh.
That was good enough for me to decide that I need to do something different.
So that meeting was pivotal because it then gave our prodigy here the inspiration that he too needs A, needs to be Bill Gates, and B, have the lakeside house, to which, of course, he'll invite us all.
Not necessarily the house, but yeah, rest everything is okay.
Okay, cool. So then after that, you come back, and then you have a bunch of startups that you try, and they don't go so well.
Yeah, I think the whole idea was to how do we solve problems that are not solved and apply technology to them. And I won't say they didn't go well because we were beginning to form a team, a culture, way of working, trying the whole model of failing and learning. And in that, one of the ideas was to solve the vision problem of India, which seemed like the most impactful of all the problems we worked on. So it was the same team.
Yeah, so those early startups basically gave you the team that, of course, has now been with
which
you.
is the most important in any startup, by all means.
Absolutely. And so then I remember hearing the story. So Peyush had gone to some VCs and said, oh, I only want this much money. And then they gave him a lot more money, right?
Yeah, I think, look, you were mentioning, somebody was mentioning, I'm so happy about the job, that you were mentioning that, I'm so happy that I don't have to do fundraise. And I'm so happy that I also didn't have to do fundraise because I didn't know how to, and I didn't know that there is this world that existed where investors are and they give money, and you didn't have these conferences where people used to talk about valuations, etc. We were so busy doing what we wanted to do, and I think there's a lot of power in that innocence of working on a problem with all the sincerity. And then somebody approached saying, if you're working on this problem, I would like to partner with you. I think that approach is far better than having to go and pitch. And we were not sure what we would do with that much money, but clearly the one who was giving knew more. So we took it because we had nothing to lose.
So guys, I'll tell you a side story. So I remember him telling me the story many, many years ago. And I was at a conference where I was the founder trying to raise money. And I was looking at him saying, this guy is so lucky. Yeah. Like, I wish life was actually like that. So, but then the money came with the rider, and then the investor said that along with Lenskart, you also need to be doing other things in life.
Yeah, so I think the way it works is that, we were working on a problem, and then, a lot of people think that when you raise VC money, that's the arrival, and that's now you are successful. But of course it comes with the riders that people are expecting you to do certain things that comes, and we were also in that early stage where we didn't know what we wanted. But I think we were very obsessed about solving the problem of vision care. And that's how it all started. It didn't start because I wanted to make money or I wanted a lakeside house. I just thought that there is something more that I wanted to be part of. And that clearly was happening in vision care. And soon after raising money, it became a lot about building a business, which wasn't so exciting to me personally. Wasn't then and is not today also. And as it soon started becoming, okay, let's try to become someone else. And in those days, it used to be like, okay, let's try to build an online titan, which is why we entered watches, bags, jewelry. And I was lucky enough that about 1 or 2 years into it, speaking to some mentors and advisors as they cross-questioned me about what I wanted to do, I realized that, we were doing about 10 crores in revenue in those days. 8 crores used to come from watches, bags, jewelry, and 2 crores used to come from eyewear. And my heart was in eyewear. I didn't really want to build a very large business. That wasn't my motivation. I just wanted to solve this problem. And, good mentors, advisors don't have the answer to your solution, but they ask you some tough questions. So I was sitting at Ronnie's house and he was asking me what I want to do, and I really wanted to solve this problem. So he just told me, if you shut everything else, I'll continue to back you. And I just shut everything else.
Guys, so
and that was good. I think it was because now I was happier doing what I wanted to do.
So actually Peyush has actually did a very, very brave thing. So as he said, he was doing 10 crores in revenue, right? And this is going several years back. So that
Yes.
10 crores was actually a lot of money back then. 8 crores was coming from other sources of which he was not that passionate about. Only 2 crores was coming from lenses, but that was, margins were better.
Yeah.
Right? So then having that, the guts to shut down business lines that are making money and pursuing what is your passion. So Peyush, that takes a lot of courage. And as an entrepreneur, if you had to look back at your journey, that probably is an inflection point. But what are those values and what are those internal strengths that you feel that you had, those reserves that actually helped you get there and get here today and has seen you through the process?
Yeah, I think I was very clear that what I wanted to do. And I think along the journey, of course, many investors come on board and everybody, I think if you don't know what you want to do, then everybody can tell you what you should do. But if you are very clear of what you want to do, then, so I always say this, that if you don't have a point of view, then everybody else around you has a view. So it's very important that you should have a point of view. And I think the only thing we did well is that we were very clear in defining what we wanted to be. And I think it's also important to say it and write it down, otherwise it's human nature to get distracted all the time. It's okay to go back to a Bible or a manual and say, this is what we set out to do. Because what happens along the journey is you have a lot of failures. And every time you have a failure, automatically the mind gravitates towards choosing an option which is easier. But the real juice is in solving the unsolved problems. So I think the thing that has stayed along the last 10 years is that our obsession of saying that we would give vision to 50% of the country. Our obsession to say that we would eradicate this problem of vision correction. And just staying course, not getting distracted with all the noise about valuations and fundraising and celebrating every time you raise money. I don't think that was the motivation. And I think for us, arrival, and a lot of people think we have arrived right now. People come and say, you've built such a large, successful business. But if we go back to our notebook, we are probably still at day zero. Right? Because we said 50%, we are serving maybe 4% of India. So if we feel that there's so much to do, yeah, 4%, right? As much as you may think, India is so big. So I think we are very clear We were very clear, and that kind of, and we knew that if we had to make some of those, leapfrog jumps in terms of making, like if we are serving now, Lenskart is serving maybe 10, 15 million people a year, but we want to serve 450 million people. So unless we take some big, bold bets along that journey, we may not get closer to that mission.
Absolutely, right? And that actually, we were talking about the power of compounding. And what is it that as an entrepreneur, you need to constantly compound yourself, right? Your habits, your processes, your people, your team, right? For it to really work. How do you go about it, and what is the magic sauce? The secret sauce, rather.
See, I believe in this term called consistency, and I have done a lot of research on this, that I think everybody wants to hit a 6. And I am somebody who doesn't want to hit a 6. I just want to hit the 1 or 2s regularly on every ball. And, every time I've done this, if a company grows, like if Lenskart is $700-800 million today, if we just grow 30% for the next 10 years, how big we will be?
Don't ask me to do the math. Why don't you do it for me?
You don't need to, but I can tell you that sometimes we underestimate the power of just doing some things really well. And to do, you don't need to, I see so many people who are trying to lose weight, right? They stop eating and then suddenly they start, they lose a lot of weight and then they start eating again. But there are people who can just control their diet consistently. I think in the latter you have better results. So I think it's important to be consistent. Lenskart has been advertising on TV. We have never done a massive campaign, but we are live on TV 365 days a year with only that much money, very little money. So I think there is that consistency that is important, and what allows you to be consistent, I think, is culture. I think at the core of everything lies people and culture, and I think building a team which is very clear about what we want to do, which operates in a certain way, can allow you to compound more than anything else. There is no secret sauce. At least that's what I feel.
So it's basically consistency compounds.
Yes, and culture allows you to bring that consistency.
So let's come to culture actually. And Peyush's title has people. So along with the CEO, he's also the?
Yeah, I look after the people function.
He looks after the people function also. So first, what do you think of, is the people function something that should be outsourced to the HR department? Or is that something that the CEO himself, amongst all the 100,000 things that have to be done, that the CEO himself or herself should look at?
See, I think it depends on the stage of the company. I think after the first 10 years of Lenskart, I think we were beginning to become clear. And I think if you want to grow beyond a certain scale, the only way you can grow is that you have to delegate the decision-making process. Yes. And culture is nothing but a framework of decision-making. What to prioritize more, customer or revenue, growth, immediate growth or short-term growth. How you take decisions every day is culture, right? And I think it was beginning to become clear to me 3-4 years back that if we want to now go and jump to the next curve, the only thing that would matter is, are we creating an ecosystem, a framework which will allow people to take decisions freely, but at the same time they'll be right decisions, right? And you need to make more good decisions than bad decisions. You cannot make all the decisions yourself. And that is why I think I started spending a lot more time in terms of figuring out that how are people taking decisions, and that is what people call culture, but it is more important. I also think that in India, the focus on people and culture is far lesser than what you would see. I mean, Rajan was here from Google, and I really admire the work Google, Amazon, Netflix, these companies have gone global much faster, much better than some of the other companies. Yeah, these are just places where people can come and deliver their best.
Yeah. I know AI is the theme and we'll come to that, but as entrepreneurs, oftentimes we are led by what VCs want us to do. And for many years, VCs were like, top line बढ़ा दो, growth कर दो, बाकी देखी जाएगी, right? And a whole generation of entrepreneurs and ourselves to some level included, we were just looking at the big numbers. Let's get the big number up. Then, of course, came sanity. The past 2 years are sanity. And then they said, let's look at the bottom line. Let's look at profitability. Let's look at growth with profitability. So those were things that we hadn't heard for many, many years, right? And Lenskart has been profitable for the past 3 years now?
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years. So what did you guys do to develop that muscle that allows you to move on from growth at all costs to growth with profitability?
Firstly, I think we were never doing what VCs wanted us to do. We were doing what we wanted to do, and we wanted to create a global sustainable organization, right? And I think, so we didn't really have to change and pivot our strategy based on what market wants, because one fundamental belief, like we all have a belief that India will do well in the long term, right? I have that strong belief. So I knew that if we keep doing the right thing, you know, somebody says, right, that great companies can get funded anytime. So if you know very well that you are building something for the long term, I think all entrepreneurs know what they are building and what will it mean in the long term. It's just that sometimes we do things to satisfy the market, or we paint a picture. We just didn't do all of that. We were very clear that we are not here to build a business. We are here to build an institution. This institution needs to last for not 5 or 10 years. This institution needs to ever prevail for 50, 100 years. And the only way you do that is to create a sustainable business. And the unit economics, the people, the investment.
What did you do specifically that turned on, that took you towards profit? Because we have lots of entrepreneurs in the room. And what would you like to tell them as to how do you look at profitability and how do you make those hard decisions that allows you to get there?
So it's not overnight switch in my view, right? I think if you are making an overnight switch, then somewhere you're also compromising. And I know some companies have to do that. For us, fundamentally, we have to ensure that we are doing something valuable. And I use the word 10x, right? You can't be incrementally better. You have to create significant value. And if you're doing something that valuable, then it has to be sustainable.
Sure.
And at that sustainability, you know, at a unit economics level. So if at a unit economics level it is not making sense, then it's never going to make sense, right?
Yeah.
You kind of know that you're heading towards a disaster. So we always knew that our unit economics are healthy. Yeah. They were always healthy. We knew if they were not healthy, then we were not creating enough value,
sure,
which means we need to become more valuable. You don't need to build a push business, right? I shouldn't have to sell you so much. There has to be pull in the business. Your product and your, like, amount of time people spend on marketing their product. If they spend same amount of time making their product not incrementally better, like a lot of people say my product is good, but good is not good enough.
Yeah.
It has to be great, so great that everybody wants it. If everybody wants it, then you should be able to charge the right amount of money that would make it sustainable for you to continue to do that.
Yeah.
And then it's a matter of time. We became profitable because we started hitting a certain scale and we had certain fixed costs, which were our people costs, our talent costs, which we would never compromise on. Yeah, so it was, I don't think...
So it's basically focusing on the unit economics and making sure that when the scale comes, you're ready for it and you maximize.
I think focusing on building a real business from day one, not a business that market likes or VC likes.
Absolutely.
Building a business like, oh, my father is a chartered accountant, right? And like you build a business, right? In business, it's common sense. You don't have to, there is no business where I give you 400 rupees and you give me back 500 rupees. That's not business.
Sure. So now moving on to kind of, I want to actually touch upon this very briefly on this 10x rubric of decision making that you seem to, so I was chatting with Peyush before this, and I was telling how much I love the Karan Johar ads and the fact that he was persuaded to come in front of the camera because typically that's something that he wouldn't usually do, and actually be the star of the ad where Karan was also there. And what convinced you to do that? How did you decide that this is a risk that I want to take?
Yeah, so I think, firstly, I don't want to be a celebrity. I know a lot of people ask me. That's not my end goal in life.
We're coming to Shark Tank at the end, so yeah.
See, I kind of like to feel that we have to be adaptive to the environment and we have to stay relevant. And, I am willing to fail and learn and become smarter every day. And it was that phase in life where we wanted to learn social media, and everybody said this one thing, that in social media, the only thing that mattered is relevant. And then my, Tanmay Bhatt wrote this script and I found it relevant. And I kind of felt that either this is going to be 10x or it's going to be a complete disaster. And if it would not have been 10x, I would not have gone. But I felt that, yes, this is relevant, and yeah, it
So
worked.
take the big risks when you feel the payoff is going to be.
I agree. I think if you want to keep, making a big difference, if you're very clear on the problem, then you need to take some bold bets. I still remember we were in this 4-story building in Okla, and we had very little money left. But one thing which was becoming clear to me is that the collaboration is not as high as I want it to be. And I just was obsessed of getting everybody on a single floor. And we went all the way to Faridabad for the longest time, you remember, right? And nobody wanted to come to Faridabad.
I did come. I've seen that, yeah.
And we went to this single floor office, and it was a big bet for us because we were out of money. We were in this factory space, and now we had to take this big rental ecosystem. But the amount of change that brought to our results, because everybody was on a single floor collaborating, was enormous. So you have to take those big bets. We had no money, and we had to invest in the last 3 crores, and we went and bought a machine from Italy, which was the best lens hedging machine. So you have to take those bets all the time, I think.
Those big bets pay off. I remember walking through this, and I'm like, he was literally showing me the office, and one floor, and my answer, why? I mean, it's a floor, I get it. But of course, that floor made all the difference. So now coming to technologies, right? You guys have these, Lenskart has these state-of-the-art factories. You're literally owning the entire funnel all the way towards from making them to kind of customer service and all the way through. And you've obviously been investing a lot in technologies. So let's kind of touch a little bit upon that, but then also look at the potential that AI has and how a business like Lenskart, a business like what a lot of us are building right now, how can we use those technologies well?
Yeah, so firstly, I think in terms of, so I learned a lot from the Jio journey in India, right? I think what Jio did was phenomenal because they had this fundamental belief that people are going to consume more and more data, and they went and laid tons of optic fiber. And a few years back in COVID, when everything was falling apart, I kind of knew that, it's true that about 400-500 million people in India need glasses and they don't have it. And about 60% of eye tests that we are doing are for the first time. So we went and said, okay, if we are so sure about it, then why are we not investing behind it? And that's how all these investments in supply chain and factory came. So we went and said, okay, let's create a factory. Because if we want to serve 500 million people, then let's at least create a factory that can serve 50 million people. And it was a big bet because we've invested almost $100 million in the factory. So we learned from Jio, and we went and took a bold decision again of owning the supply chain, of making glasses more affordable and more higher quality so that that goodness to great difference increases even more. So I think that paid off in terms of that sense. So I learned a lot from Jio. In terms of technology, I think technology is more of a DNA. And I sound a bit traditional in some of this. I don't think, technologies will come and go. Earlier now, Rajan was saying that Google search is actually AI. AI is not new. It's whether you are able to use these technologies to business is what is important. And in all of these buzzwords, I ask companies, every investor pitch today that comes has the word AI. Right? It is like the cool word. Like GMV used to be a cool word, now AI is the cool word. But what you need to build is a culture and talent in the company where they can use technology to solve problems.
Got it.
Technology is not the problem.
So AI as an enabler.
And AI is the enabler. I still remember we were opening stores, and I used to sit in this meeting where, people used to ask me, should we open this location? I don't know the answer, right? But I still had to give an answer. And then I started noticing If I used to say I like this location, 4 other people in the committee members also used to like that location. So then I changed the strategy and started going last. But end result was not good. You know, success rate was 50-50. So we started using AI and said we know so much data on the internet about visitor traffic, what is the size of a Swiggy order or a Zomato order in that locality. Can we use all of this data to make a prediction? And I had studied AI in college. And we were predicting a latitude, longitude, or what is the revenue. And everybody used to say this is not something that can be predicted. We started with 50% accuracy. Today, with 95% accuracy, we can tell you if we open a store in that latitude, longitude, how much revenue we'll do.
That's brilliant.
So it's not about, it's not cool.
Yeah.
But it
That's
is
very cool.
allowing us to do what we really wanted to do. So I think you need to know your purpose, what you want to do. But you should not say, oh, just because AI is cool and investors like this stuff, let me just figure out ways to put AI in my business.
So guys,
That's
there's
not
a
how it
theme
should
to
be.
what Peyush says, right? I mean, he's parking investors in one kind of corner and basically
No, I'm
saying,
not investors. I love all my investors. I think,
Okay.
but we shouldn't blame investors
Not at all.
so much, right? I don't think investors are only helping us. We need to take ownership of our own
Sure.
decisions and own company.
So now going back to the 10x framework of decision making, what made you decide that you wanted to be on Shark Tank?
I did not decide. It was my wife and my co-founder decide because I, on my honeymoon, and all my friends, bachelors, only used to watch Shark Tank, the US one. And I remember once we had gone to Koh Samui, and once I had gone to Maldives with my wife, and I was sitting on that beachside room and watching Shark Tank. So when Shark Tank approached me, my first reaction was, I'm too busy, you know me. And then I was like, I can't do this, I'm not doing this. But then my wife and my co-founder Amit, they said, I have to do it, I have to try it, because they've seen me obsessed about watching it. So I just tried it. And the best thing I saw about it is that as much as people think that they are learning from me, I thought I was learning more. Like I was beginning to become like a old entrepreneur, and suddenly now I know, like Karan Johar ad would not have happened if I didn't do Shark Tank.
Fair.
Right?
So you've opened up opportunities.
Yes, and I'm learning about new age, I'm learning about D2C, I'm learning about the pace at which businesses are growing. I'm a more
And guys,
risk taker.
the biggest, one of the biggest DTC entrepreneurs in the country, right? Just saying.
Yeah, but we are still not, I kind of think the amount of learning I've done in the last 2 years is more than I would have done in the last 6 years.
So you don't regret it?
No, I'm learning so much because firstly, 2 things happened. Those 60 days, I am not running the company, and there are people in the company who are running the company, and the company is decent scale now. So it's good because now all the decision-making framework is coming to test. I have no time. Second, I am out of the box learning about what a dollar can do, because in our company, when somebody wants to do X, they suddenly ask for $10, and I'm like, okay, can you do it in 5? And they're like, okay, we can try in 6. When I go to Shark Tank, they're doing it in 10 cents. So now I can come and tell them $10, no, can you do it in $1? And then I settle for 1.5. So that perspective changes. It puts you takes you back to your roots. And then we think, okay, one year we'll build this business into 10 crores. And when I go to Shark Tank, they're like, I started last year, I've done 100 crores. They're like, okay, no, everything.
But there are trade-offs, right? I was talking to your team and she was telling me as to how earlier, Peyush is very obsessive, by the way. He'd go to a store and I've seen him kind of do that. And if the spectacle was not correctly placed, then the store would suddenly get a training session like right there and then, right? But you can't do that anymore.
I can wear a cap and do it. And it's okay. See, everything has pros and cons. But yes, while Shark Tank is on, people recognize me and they want a selfie. That's it. But otherwise, I can still do it.
Okay,
And people love buying. What the good part is that I kind of feel that sometimes when I'm selling in the store, there are people who don't really want to buy, they don't like anything, but they just buy because I'm selling it. So I think we get a little bit...
we need an AI model that is able to put a version of Peyush in every store. Actually, that's not a bad idea, by the way. And then Peyush is selling to you, and let's talk on the side.
So it's a little bit additional sales. 0.1% of Lenskart sales is attributed to that.
Yeah, and then I'm sitting right here, guys. All of you heard it, and the idea came. So yeah, we're going to wrap up this session. This was a lot of fun. And since he mentioned a selfie, I'm thinking we should try and do a selfie with Peyush with all of us here. So that'll be quite nice. Do we have time for questions? Deep is standing right there, so I don't think we don't. But thank you so much, Peyush. And one of the nicest things about Peyush is that all these years, I've known him for over 10 years, and he's exactly the same person. Fame has come. He's become, he is one of the preeminent entrepreneurs of our country and building for scale for the future, a generational company. And he's exactly the same person. So on that note, please join me in giving Peyush a very big hand.
Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you.
I would like to invite Ms. Gitika Dayal, Executive Director, TIE Delhi, to thank Peyush and Priyanka for their wisdom. Peyush, just a second. We'd like to thank our gift partners, Lenskart, Peyush, your gift to you. The Good Glamm Group, Sirona Hygiene, and Yukta Media for these wonderful speaker gifts.